Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So only one. We merge one PR. Yep, we merge one PR. Add support for multiple URLs in URL condition. That's an improvement of the URL rule for widgets, which is that now you can do URL and pass multiple URLs inside, and if one matches, then the rule will be true. There was an old PR that was scheduled or triaged for future version, meaning we don't need that. And yes, we don't need that because you can do ORs with URLs, but he improved it and it was not breaking, so we accepted it. And I think Andrew Cartwright, an old friend of Chris, I assume.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, Bit Gaming, maybe he joined after. And that's it on Orchard 1, OrchardCore. OrchardCore, we have that, or maybe we have, yes, we have more. It's just that, as usual, Nick rebasing is screwing up the history, but that's fine. So we have, so that I'm not sure. Yeah, I think I talked about it last week. Why is this? Oh, I know. But who cares? So I renamed all the modules, all the targets to targets, and Jean-Thierry fixed it because I was naming some props and targets files incorrectly. They have to match the project name, which I didn't for some, so it was broken. So he fixed it. What is that? Invert, align, and image btnDef in trumbowyg. Okay. trumbowyg updates. Renaming bundle to application 6 days ago. Oh, that's just a merge, maybe. That's it. So now there is OrchardCore module targets to reference and OrchardCore.application when you do a modular application. I also updated the OrchardCore samples for the modularity samples. That's filtering to features page. So Chris submitted a PR which is implementing the filtering in the features page. So there was a text box, but this was not implemented. And I assume you took the code from Orchard 1. I hope so. I would hope so, because it works in Orchard 1. Nope.
Kind of. I improved it a bit.
Okay, good. As long as you saw what was done in Orchard 1.
Yeah, I just simplified it a little bit, but it's based on Orchard 1, yeah.
Fixes a couple of user validation issues. Yes, because now there is this new option, we talked about it. So Chris added the support of this one in the UI, and also here for the errors. Okay, so now it's supported. It was not supported before. That's good. We talked about it last week. Alexander, who removed an old project which was not necessary because of the renaming. This is Sipke with autoserviceregistration. This is a PR. We'll look at this PR on GitHub. Design to configure, rename design. This is also something we'll talk about. I have in my topics. It's a PR also using custom ImageSharp.Web build. So, because the guys from 6 Labors are not updating their NuGet package on NuGet, even though everything was fixed and it's ready and it's a satellite assembly, they should just update it. They are not. So I just took it and published it under OrchardCore.ImageSharp.Web. And we are, you see, it's a weird name, but it's just temporary so that we can use NuGet and not have a dependency on myGet. So now we can ship on NuGet. There is no more dependency that is not on NuGet. That yeah, there is OpenID connect, but we have removed the dependency for now until it's only get, because it's not necessary. This one is necessary. Add all feature deployment step. So Chris Payne has created a new deployment step called all features, which will export all the features which are enabled inside a recipe. So as a deployment step. So that's cool. And it validates that it's extensible and you can do anything for the deployment steps. So that's great. Typos in Layout.liquid from Jean-Thierry. Yes, you see not colon but equals. Antoine updating his bootstrap for PR. Initial JSON workers. Nick on is JSON API branch. This is, yes, Antoine on something which broke something else. So you will see, Antoine, I did something else after. Setup didn't work anymore after that. You can't go to admin, there is no more menu after that. So I don't disagree with the change, even though I don't understand. But
Antoine's not in the meeting. He can't rejoin.
He's here for me. Maybe because he's here. Let me remove from meeting. Now maybe he can join again. Sipke will tell him. So this is a fix here. Then Jean-Thierry fixed the import files. I fixed the path creation issue that was breaking the folder creation in the media. This is fixing the display name which was not updatable. So you will try to update it, but it will not work. So is he back? Yeah, I removed it from the meeting so you could join again. Add query modal, so Antoine fixed the add query modal if no query features is enabled. Then the condition is this one. This is the PR, the merged PR that we talked about earlier. Merging master into dev. Then this is another PR from Chris that makes a user implement identity. So now user, the user class, can be extended with custom drivers. This is a feature I showed like a few months ago with identity, and he made it. So this is what we have for site. So site is not a content item, but it can be extended by drivers. So anyone can create drivers to compose the UI of site and the model of site. Same thing now for user. So user can have drivers. So you can do a profile driver, whatever kind of profile driver you want. And they can be specific to custom POCO classes that you will define, but they can also later, I don't know if Chris will do that, but we can do, like for the site, we can do a custom feature that can weave parts to the user. Okay, so you could create a part or a content type and give it a custom stereotype to say this content type is actually describing some custom data to plug to a user. And this is what we did for custom site settings. And we could do it for users. So if you don't want to write a driver, but you want to dynamically add fields to a user under a specific name, then we could create a custom stereotype for a type, like we do for sites. So this is doable now because of this change. And then it changed the display of users to use a shape now. So now you can override the shape to override the shape or provide more shapes to SummaryAdmin display type for user if you want to interfere in the rendering of a user in the list. A change from Thomas that is fixing an issue with templates when they contain weird chars. I pulled it and I tried, it works. This is a fix for Antoine. You remember when you say the invert of the condition. Now I have to test for that, otherwise there is no menu in the admin. And this is a fix for a preview which was generating wrong URLs for images. This is, I moved the recipes into their respective modules. So the agency recipe is now part of the agency theme, the blog recipe is part of the blog theme, and the SaaS recipe is part of the theme. This way the web app doesn't have any recipe, so when we do a brand new web project and reference OrchardCore.CMS, then it will just work and we'll have the recipes available. You can still add more, or you can, no, you can't remove references. Then you can create your own set of references if you don't want them. And this is a fix. I could not find the bug number in time, but Antoine will close it because we had like 4 duplicates of this bug, and I will show you what it looks like now. This is that you would lose the connection string on setup, and I also fixed another bug, by the way, and Antoine will also find it because he's very good at finding those bugs. Let me show you. That will be a quick demo, and then I will look at the PR. Yep, thank you. You can close them. There are 2 issues to close at least. You will see the other one. I assume you haven't had time to test it because I just pushed it before the meeting. So I have a default tenant, which is a SaaS tenant. I created another tenant which hasn't been, oh yes, I initialized it to test, so I will show you with a new one. In the meantime, while it's building, talking about releasing. So I'm trying to fix all the little things that will be annoying for new users, and I think we are good. Everything is ready for NuGet to be published there. So either today or tomorrow, I will change the default gallery to be NuGet on master and NuGet on master branch, and keep my get on dev branch. Okay, and then we'll do our main development on dev branch and only merge on master when we want to publish a NuGet officially, a new version like big bug fixes or new features. So as soon as I will do that, we'll have beta 1 dash something, I don't know what, available on NuGet. And I will also protect master so that nobody can push on master unless there is a pull request which has been approved. So that's it. So, and then we can say that beta 1 is officially released and point to it in our samples and everything. So that's it. Did it start something? Didn't I say Control F5? Or maybe it was started actually. Oh yeah, it was started. Okay, so this is a default tenant. I'm going to admin. Design tenants, and I will create a new one. Test2, and I will set prefix test2, save, And if I click on that, the tenant is already created. And now I will call it test2. So the issue was that when you will select a connection string, like a wrong connection string. So first thing, which is new, now when you type, the connection string will be hidden, like a password, okay? Because someone complained that connection strings contain passwords, so we should just hide it by default. At the same time, what I did is this thing, if you want to see it, because you don't know what you typed, and oh, I don't care, and I want to use what has been saved before, so you can do that now, okay? I will make it fail on purpose, and I will create password. And if I finish setup, now you get the error, okay? And you don't, it's not hiding the thing anymore. So now you can type it again because the password is not saving it, but at least it works. So, and if I type a new one, for instance, there will be another error message, the correct error message, okay? And then you can fix it. And that's good. So all good now. Antoine will close all the bugs which are related to that. People were complaining because they were losing. If you had an issue like table already exists, wrong connection string or wrong credentials, then you will not be able to enter it again. The issue being that the shell setting was updated in memory as a singleton, so it will not. It will have already some values, so it will say, "Oh, I already have values. I don't need more." And yeah, and the fix was to clone the shell settings instead of, yeah, the clone was wrong. Nick, you will look at the last commit, you will understand. And this little nifty thing. That's it for this change. Is there any other demo on this side? I don't think so. It was just bug fixes. Any new feature I missed? Chris's new features are not visible. It's just user management, but in a different way. And I think that's it. PRs. So Chris has done lots of PRs that we have merged. Sipke has done some PRs that we haven't merged. But maybe we'll do. Let's see. So first, rename design to configuration. So it explains that right now we have design here. Okay, and what he says is that design is not obvious what it is and what we want to do, so he suggests that we rename it to configuration. And I'm not opposed to it. It's just that we did a meeting a year ago where we defined what should be in this navigation, and we named it design and not configuration for a reason. Have you watched the video, Sipke?
I haven't. Sorry.
I haven't either. I was there, but I don't remember what we said. So, and I remember I tagged this one with navigation to be sure to use it every time we have a question, and this is what we said, design. So if everyone is okay to change it to configuration, I'm fine too. I don't care. It's just that because we have decided that, I mean, there must have been a reason.
I don't remember the reason.
That's why I pointed to the video, but we didn't watch the video.
I know. Well, all right. Should we watch? I'll watch the video afterwards, and if there's no reason, then then I'll merge it. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Cool.
Site, because everything else is the same. You see this, well,
Yep.
site, tenants, security roles, it's there. Media, it's called assets now. Content, yeah. So that's the idea. I don't know why we decided that, but we did, and we talked about everything and the how many levels we should have, and the names of the main categories to be obvious to, yeah, based on the different profiles we had. So I remember we talked about it. So that's the first PR. Second one, also something that we decided in a meeting. I'm not sure we decided. I think we decided with Nick. So Sipke made some classes and interfaces well, some attributes actually to implement auto discovery of services. So right now, if you create any service, you need to register it using the standard ASP.NET pattern, which is services.add transient add singleton, your interface and your class. Okay. And compared to Orchard 1, what the main difference is that in Orchard 1, you just implemented one interface, and it will be automatically discovered at startup and registered based on the name of the interface. So what he made here is an improvement compared to Orchard 1, which is that you don't have to implement an interface. You just attribute it with service or service implementation, and you can also pass the lifetime in the attribute. Okay, so you don't require an interface. DM is the same story. The goal is to be able to register these items without having to do it explicitly. Well, it's explicit here, but not in the startup. Yeah. And we had that before in OrchardCore using the interfaces, but we explicitly removed the feature, all the code that was doing that, so that it will be the same as any ASP.NET application. You will not have a different development model to register your classes and your services than ASP.NET. That was intentional. So what it's doing is optional. So we could have it, and you could use it or not use it. The drawback I see also is that if we have two stories to register services, then there will be some confusion, because some user will see these attributes somewhere and say, okay, I have to use that, and somewhere else they will not see that, and they will, so what's the difference, and why should I use this one and not the other? Otherwise, technically, they do exactly the same thing, and there is no cost for it.
Yeah, it's of course also true that in Orchard 1 we didn't have a startup-based kind of thing per module to allow you to register your services, and in Orchard Core we have it, so that makes this less necessary. And in addition, in Orchard 1 you only would have to implement an interface, and then well, you would only have to inherit from some base class that implements some interface, like content handlers being a good example, and you don't have to even register it. You wouldn't even have to annotate it. And in this solution, you would have still to annotate your content handler as an example. Yeah, so that's another difference.
So the issue also with this solution is that it doesn't support ordering. You don't know in which order the services will be registered, and sometimes that matters, because in the collection, the order where you order your services will be resolved in the same order. And between startups like features, or so you can put an attribute for a feature on a startup class, and all the services that are registered there will be registered for this feature. With your solution, you will have to tag every class with the feature name. That's little things, but yeah. I don't think this is related to what we want. This was to answer his concern about content handler and how I think they should be refactored instead of what we have today. So I don't think either solution is good. This one is better. Yeah, so that's a PR, and I don't know what people think, but yeah, my main concern is that we are the same as ASP.NET, so nobody will be confused.
Especially with the argument that you just gave about ordering, I wouldn't want to see that on the attribute, because it's better to, well, if you have it in a single place in startup, it's much easier to see what the order is, and it's implicit by the order of the code of the lines.
So we can order startups, and inside a startup, we order services when they're registered. Someone was saying something.
And you can have as many startups as you want as well.
Yep.
So inside of a single module.
Yep. So there is no really a reason to take that. Just confusion. It's nice. I like it.
Yeah, the documentation's awesome, dude.
I know. I like
really
it, but I would abandon this PR, because I agree with the startup, and I started writing this without fully realizing that there was a startup per module. I only discovered that as I was doing this, and yeah, and with all of the arguments, I agree with them. So I would abandon this one. Or we can archive it for other projects.
That's not what where is my Visual Studio? Where is the other Visual Studio? Here. I have two desktops, that's why. So if I look at the scene, we have, what is the module that has multiple features?
I have no idea.
There is one, I'm sure.
There is one.
Deployment, does that have remote deployment as well?
Probably. Okay. Deployment. It's another module. Let me see.
Demo. Demo's got multiple, right?
But not many startups.
We're not going to deploy demo, are we? Out to NuGet.
No. Did I reference it? Maybe. No, I don't think so. I don't think it's referenced. I will check, but it should not be referenced by the CMS. Okay. I will check. That's a good question. Queries, but maybe it doesn't have multiple startups. But I know there is multiple startup at some point. Crap. Let me see. Startup. If I look at the names, I will find it.
Oh, that's an interesting one. So two startups in a single.
That's the goal, because there is an order and everything.
Is there an order on startup base?
Yes, because of that, because you want to order sometimes things.
So do you need a startup per feature because you would bind your startup class?
You don't need, but you can. Startup is like any other service actually. So you can.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm wondering if you have a module and you expose a bunch of services, but you want to bind them against different features, how would those services be registered? Because you would have to know this from either explicitly from your single startup, or maybe your startup needs to be bound against a feature.
Here I have an example. Oh no, yes, there is one file startup, but there are two classes in this. So this one, so startup, there is a startup class, okay? Because there is no attribute, it's assigned to the default feature of the module. Okay, and you see here services and configure routes and everything. This one will configure a service only if this feature is enabled. So we have a startup for that. Okay, and if you want to order startups, you can have a startup run before the others by defining its order property, like this.
Question about that feature attribute there. I also saw the require features attribute. How does that relate to the feature
that's
attribute?
Beautiful. I don't remember how it works, let me think, but that's beautiful. I remember when I explained it.
I don't know, man. I'm still not convinced by the
No, oh my god. watch the video. If you don't understand, I'm sorry, but there is definitely a difference between feature and require feature. Require feature will, I think, enable it. Let me see, where is that? Require feature. It's beautifully explained in the video. Require feature attribute. Require features. Oh no, or maybe it can't be enabled if it doesn't. What is that? So when used on a class, it will include the service only if the yes, that's the idea. That's beautiful. So you can define a yes, and I will show you where it's used. Sipke, you will love it. I don't know why, Nick, you don't get it. I mean, that's awesome.
Oh right, so if you enable remote publishing, for example, then this other service will be enabled too.
Yes, let me explain it. When you have a service in a module like Lucene, but this service can do something for media. Okay, you enable Lucene, but this service for media is not enabled because media is not enabled. Okay, you don't want to create a feature just for a service that will enhance media. So you say require feature on this service media, and it will only be registered or call, like the startup, if media is also enabled. So it's not like to be able to be registered, I need media to be there, but I don't want to force media to be there. Okay? So this way, for instance, imagine workflow and users. Workflow and users. We always have issues because people are like, I enable workflow, but I can't find the user activities. But user is already enabled. It's actually because there is a user feature for workflows in the user module. So people never know that they have to go in there is a user feature that will add the basic user management workflow. So what we will do is that this user activity, we say require workflow. So whenever you enable a workflow, this one from users will be registered too.
That's very cool.
Okay. And if you don't like it, do it the old way. You can still create a feature if you think it should be a different feature that has to be activated on purpose. But now you have an option. You can say when user is enabled and workflow is enabled, this service will kick in. So this way you can say, you can define a service that will only click in if specific features are enabled, 1, 2, 3, or 4 as you want. Okay. So if all of them are here, I will be enabled, because that makes sense for me to run if, like, you imagine, you see what I mean? Like two features together might do something else or might require something to be there to work. Like message bus and Redis, if the two are there, then we might want to do something. I don't know. So that's the idea.
Well, yeah, that's a good example. The workflow and user activities. That's a perfect example.
And I needed that because, let me see, because I didn't want to create more features, like a feature for just a little thing, and have people enable all these features just for little things. So this example, for instance, let's see. If I take, this is remote publishing. So metablog, for instance, you see here, in every module, I will implement an IXML RPC handler to support OpenLiveWriter. Okay? But this guy is in the list module, and there is not a feature to enable it. It will just say, I will be enabled only if remote publishing is enabled. So whenever you enable remote publishing, all the other modules will be able to provide it with something because it's there. Like, oh, I can enhance remote publishing. I have that. But if you don't enable remote publishing, this won't be registered. That's the idea. Okay, and this thing is declared in an abstraction class, an abstraction module. So you will depend on the abstraction to implement the services, but you don't depend on the module. The module doesn't have to be there or doesn't have to be enabled. Just the day it will be there and enabled, you will register that. Okay, that's why we need a require feature. I love this thing. That's it.
It's a better explanation than you had last time, I think.
No. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Watch the video. It's just clear now, but you will forget and you will say, no, I don't get it. Like I just did 10 minutes ago. I didn't remember what it was for, but once I read the description, it was better. Okay. So Nick will watch the video because he likes watching videos and tell us why we call it design and why we should not call design. Okay?
Cool.
Yeah, maybe design was more than just configuration, like templating and everything. It's not about just configuration. It's designing the site, so it's not just configuration. That can be confusing. That's what I would say. Okay, cool. Topics, questions? Where is my? No, I'm not on. Yeah, I'm on my laptop now again. Topics, questions. I need to think the targets application CMS just to be sure, as Nick is suggesting that we don't have demo, and we do. So we'll remove it. Okay.
Sweet.
I will commit it later. A lot of things actually. This one explaining why we don't have OpenID. I keep the reference here for later. Once it's on NuGet, we'll add it again. We don't have any default recipe that uses it, and you can still reference it. It will be deployed on NuGet, but it won't be referenced by the CMS bundle. Okay. That's good. Okay, question topics. What did I put on my agenda? I think it was just a PR from Sipke. That's it. Navigation, demos. I did something. Anyone has some demos to do? I didn't ask. Maybe we have. Nick didn't want. Dynamic forms for ease in this. Did I miss something? Did I miss something? So Rustem, we are plan. We are. Is that a question?
Yes, it is a question. I remember there is a module in Orchard.1 which allows you to manage layout, create master page, snippets, and other stuff, cool stuff. Do we have any plans to do the same in Orchard too?
No, the plan was to replace it by the flow page. So maybe I know there is an issue that someone, maybe that's you, we didn't like it and thinks that layout is still useful for complex layouts, but the flow page is replacing the layouts. If you have never used the flow page, you should watch the video that explains the flow page from a year ago. It's a simpler UI to manage. You can do less things for sure, but it might be simpler for users to define what they want to display, and you have live editing also.
Yeah, as I understand, in flow page you can create multiple widgets, and they will be rendered in the zones which are defined separately.
Just one zone, the content zone.
In content zone, right?
Yep.
And okay, I'll watch the video.
So the widget layers can target any content zone, but the flow page uses widgets to place in the content zone. And you can define columns with that. Maybe that's what you missed, but try to find the video. If you can't find it, I'm sure Antoine, by some magic, knows the URL already.
It works really nice, Rustem. You should totally give it a go.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
And to go with this feature, we showed actually what Craft CMS was doing. And in Craft CMS, it's called Matrix. And so the edition is vertical. So you have items after items vertically. But when it's rendered, you just align it on the right, on the left, in the center, and they will flow. And you can define the size horizontally, so they will flow like a bootstrap grid. But if there is space, it will make columns, and you can even have sub flow containers. So if you look at it, look at the demo. If you need to find the video to see how it works, and that this is the replacement to layout. Also, the big idea was to only have one concept. So in Orchard 1, we have parts, fields, widgets, element parts. So no. We have widgets and element parts to place blocks somewhere in a page. And we even have a widget element to be able to place an element as a widget, and an element widget to be able to place a widget in an element. So it's a mess. And if you want to develop something, you had to create the field or part and the element part and the widget thing. So it was just duplicating the code to be able to show the same block of content. So we just OrchardCore now, this is just one concept, a widget, and you place it in layers and in flows, and that's easier to develop and to understand. And it's a content item. So.
Okay.
So, Sergio. So yeah, I will look at perf for what you mean by eager loading. So how we solve it, Sergio, in OrchardCore is usually we tend to leverage the aggregate root a lot, as much as we can, meaning that if a content item can embed the other one, then we'll embed the other one. So with the same aggregate query, we'll have everything. In the case of media taxonomy picker, we can't embed, we have to load the content item. So we'll see about that. We have a part called the back part that lets you have some kind of attachment list. So if you want to attach content items to another one, like to embed them, you need to use the bags part. And you can, for instance, have in the blog post a bags part called attachments, and then limit it to media, and you will, this blog post will own the media directly in the blog post. So you don't have to load anything else. That's how we solve the composition in this case. Attachments. Yeah. Copyright Bertrand Leroy for the ID. But yeah, we look into it. But yes, the next module I want to work on personally is the taxonomy. Not specifically taxonomy picker, media picker, but yeah, maybe someone will work on content picker, media picker. Media picker is already there. It's already there, media picker. Well, at least in the body part. But yeah, content picker and taxonomy. I will work on taxonomy as soon as I can. That will be my next one. Sipke said he will work on workflow, and he has to work with Nick on that because Nick has started that. But that's the goal. And someone needs to take email. I think that's also an important one, to be able to register users, send emails, and we need that. It's very easy to make the email module. It's the same as the Orchard one, probably, but we need it. I looked at it multiple times. We looked at it during the triage. It's too much code everywhere to be taken. I don't understand the risk of taking it. It might work for your solution. I'm afraid it will be a mess for other solutions. So there are lots of extension methods, and I don't understand how it works. So I don't think we'll merge it directly in Orchard 1. I invite anyone to look at the PR and to try it. Maybe Soteris is interested also in taxonomy and performance, but it's solving your issue. It's written to solve your issue. I invite Soteris to comment on that, please. On the PR at least, to look at it, test it, and other comments?
So you think we're going to be releasing sometime this week then?
Yep. At least for NuGet, not maybe in terms of communication, but it will be on NuGet for sure this week.
Your document for localization went out. I saw through Microsoft Docs.
I tweeted it, so I want to do it now for the resource management. Okay, someone give me a link. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
PO. Portable. Oh.
Antoine is slow today. What's happening, Antoine? I can go on Twitter. Yeah, it will be quick. Yep, this one. Okay, got it. Yes, so too late. Win. So I'm not sure they should have categorized it there. I wanted them to create a guide section because it's not something from ASP.NET. And I was explicit multiple times, and you see if I correct with blah, blah, OrchardCore is not a Microsoft product. So that's ambiguous. But we have the official documentation for PO files on the Microsoft documentation site, just to show that it's not an OrchardCore CMS module or package is an OrchardCore package that can be used in any ASP.NET app. We use it to make a module, but it can be used in any app. And I wrote the documentation on how to use it and pluralization, which is better than Orchard 1. For anyone not speaking a two plural forms language. And this example I use check, which has 3 forms. And you can see that here the default extension method uses 2 forms, singular and plural, like in French and in English. But if you use check, you will get 3 different forms rendered. Okay, because so you have 2 forms here, 1 form, 2 forms. This one and this one are the same. Okay, but here you get 2 different forms for the plurals. So that's better than Orchard 1.
So are they going to look at doing one for modularity? That sounds like that would be a really good case.
They accepted that here. I wanted next to do the resource management because it will target also a lot of developers, and they ask for it. And yeah, why not? Because they are at it. Why not do the modular thing?
The modular sounds the best.
Because they actually officially point to OrchardCore samples whenever someone asks for modularity or multitenancy. They say, look at this sample, this is what you want to use, OrchardCore.
Yep.
And they officially say that they won't do it in ASP.NET, so they can ask for it as long as they want. They won't do it in the foreseeable future. So they just say use OrchardCore. So maybe we should have the same thing. If you want to work on that, Nick, you ask me one day to write it. I say I will try to do it, but I don't have time. So if you want to work on it, or if anyone wants to work on an article about modularity, the same, you see, with the same kind of shape as the documentation here, that would be good. It's kind of what I did in the video, explaining how to build a modular thing and how it works and tenants and everything. That would be great. I'm sure we could have it there, at least if I submit it. And yeah, I submit something, and then there is an editor, sorry, in this case, Kotadi, who reviewed it and fixed all the issues, and then it was good to go. But that's cool. People have asked for that portable object support. Isham Benataya had done some module, but this one, I think, does more things. It's more configurable. And mostly implemented by Lucas Bart as a PR on OrchardCore. We took over, but he did most of the work. So yeah, we can do more things like this. I think we should. It will help explain what OrchardCore is compared to the CMS itself.
You know, no crowding, I suppose. You know what? I don't think we've actually even talked about that at all.
Crowding?
Well, as in, we haven't really spoken about deploying OrchardCore as a second language, apart from just supporting localization. Right?
Can you repeat that? What?
So we haven't done any work really apart from just supporting the out-of-the-box PO stuff, right?
Nope.
So we actually haven't thought about exporting all the PO files and putting them onto.
No, and by the way, we doesn't even work in Orchard yet. There is a module, but it's not finished because we need to add the UI to add supported cultures and then plug them in. It's very simple, but so today it doesn't work. So there is no crowding to make because it just doesn't work.
Exactly. There's I think we've got part of the pipeline, right? But we haven't.
Finished it. Yeah, it's super simple to do. What happened? Oh, it failed. Yes, recover, please. I don't know what you have to recover, but please recover. So it failed. So I will just then look at the module on GitHub because it will be quicker. Here.
So yeah, I wouldn't say no crowding. I would say no crowding yet, as we no localization yet.
So if I look at the module localization, which itself configures, and I explain also how that is documentation on where to place the PO files, like in Orchard.1. If I look at the module, here to do set supported culture. So what we need is here list all the cultures that we support and register them here. So this can be done by configuration first, if we want. That would be a solution to do it by configuration file. But like in Orchard.1, what we need is in the settings, have a screen to edit, add, remove the cultures, and save it there, and set them there in the default culture. And then from this value from the
site, do you have access to the site settings at this point?
Yes. It's a singleton for the full. Yes, you have access to the site settings here.
Okay.
Yes, because you see, I'm sure, yeah. Because the site settings is the first thing we load for a tenant. Only when you know the site settings, we can build the container and everything. So when we call that, we already know the site settings. So yes, you have access to it. Sure.
Well, I thought you had the shell settings at this point, but not the site settings.
The site settings is the first thing. This is the first thing. How do you know the tenants? You load the site settings.
No, you load the shell settings. The site settings get pulled in afterwards, after the shell settings, right?
I don't agree.
Okay.
I don't agree. The opposite. Because the shell setting manager gives you the site settings.
The shell setting manager gives you the shell settings.
Oh, I see what you mean. I was thinking shell settings in my mind. Okay, you have access to shell settings. And oh, I see you say site settings. I see what you mean. Sorry, you're right. Site settings and shell settings. Site settings. Oh, iSite. Then at this point,
you have the shell settings. You don't have the site settings. I think.
But that's fine because you have request localization options. So we can just register a service that will. You see I configure of request localization option, which will be called by service where you will have access to the iSite. You see what I mean? So it won't be this way, but we will register the setup service, the configuration service, the I option of something. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
If you don't know, ask Sergio. Sergio does the same thing for OpenID. You have a service that implements I option of this thing, and you register the service. So when it tries to configure these guys, it will resolve your service with all its dependencies. So that's what we will do. Yeah. So yeah, that's to answer your issue. We need to do things. Okay.
Translation.
Yeah, that's it. And the localization module to support content item localization also will be needed at some point. And Nick suggested that you should do the RTL support also.
Oh yeah.
You're good at that now. It should be easy. Bootstrap everything.
We need RTL. Any routes localizations planned? I think doesn't that come out of the box with ASP.NET?
The what?
Route localization.
I don't know.
I thought there was a.
Maybe you have something
that was already out of the box, but
what is out of the box? It's maybe it's not sufficient for everything we need. Or orthogonal. I don't know. I see.
Ah, okay. That's a very good point.
I think there is that now in ASP.NET Core. You can create views for each culture that is the current one. I think there is that.
So when we enable localization and you browse the login page, we should have the culture in the URL.
Probably the URL or the view.
It probably should be in the URL.
The URL might be the same. Wait, the current culture can be set in the URL. You can have as many, as they call it. What do they call it? I documented it on the thing.
Use request localization. Yeah, so that's where the culture comes from. So it will already be in the URL.
And then you have different providers from the query string, from anything you want, from the cookie, from the browser, and you can implement it from the route if you want. That's up to you, and it will set the current culture of the thread, and then from this guy it will look for the views or the alternates, whatever. But that's
so how does it pick it up at the moment then, Sebastian, with this with use request localization? Is that how does it specify it in the URL?
By default, you have the 3 providers enabled, which is the query string, culture equals enfr, or the whatever. And for localization, content item localization will do it differently. When we load the content item for a specific culture, maybe we can set the thread with this culture. I don't know. Same thing as in Orchard one. It's like the culture selector, but they have it in.
Oh yeah, what do we do? Like for cookie, something around. Yeah, okay.
They have it in ASP.NET Core now.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Okay, that's it. Other topics offline. Well, as usual, see you on Thursday. And otherwise next Tuesday for an update. Feel free to own any feature, any module, any task. We can help. We have ideas. If you don't know what to do before doing something, ask. We have lots of ideas and priorities. We can help and give you ideas. Thanks everyone. See you next time.